Hello all, I have an apology to make. It's been brought to my attention that the fight I wrote between Raditz and Cooler is very similar to the fight between Vegeta and Cooler in Bringer of Death, one of my favorite stories. I was extremely annoyed with myself when it was pointed out to the extent this had happened, to the point where you could be forgiven for thinking I just copied and reworded some sections. I'm not sure if I have a full explanation. I suppose their fight was probably in my subconscious, and anyway, my style of writing is somewhat influenced by BOD. So, this little message is to say, I made a mistake. It was an accident, but it still happened, and I'm sorry. I'll be making some minor edits to chapters 18 and 19 over the next few days to make the similarity less obvious, but just for the record, here's the main points that were pointed out to me in the original version. This is a direct quote from the message I received, with minor changes to switch around the first, second, third person bits. An example, U has been changed to I. Cooler's faceplate mask being smashed in with a sickening crunch. I described it the same way they did. Cooler's use of telekinetic rock attack. This is no biggie, except being coupled with the others. Cooler reverting to fourth form after being beaten up. Cooler being considerably stronger than his foe, yet still being outmatched. Theirs was by Vegeta's skill and preparation, mine was by pure determination. The way that Raditz gained the upper hand by looping his arms around Cooler's shoulders, along with how Raditz smashed pieces of Cooler's armor through the fight the way we wrote it. The second part of that, again, wouldn't have been an issue if it was standalone. So that's been quite irritating. Discovered that what I'd considered one of my favorite chapters was not necessarily as original as I thought. It's kind of ironic then that I ended up putting the only deliberate reference to their story in chapter 18, without realizing that said chapter was related to BOD in a less desirable way. You know, when King Kai said, Hope of the Universe or Bringer of Death. That was merely to point out how you've got Goku and Vegeta, these almost totally different worldviews, and Raditz stuck somewhere in the middle. There will be minor changes to chapter 18 and 19 to fix this a little. These will not affect the overall plot in any way, but they will somewhat lessen the uncanny similarity between these two fights. Once I've made said effects, if you don't particularly feel like rereading the chapters in question, I'll post a list of them in the future chapters pre-story note at the beginning. I'll also be making attempts to move my writing style away from there, seeing as they were a major influence on it in future. Alright, I think that's everything covered. The show must go on. Time is not supposed to be complicated. It's a one-way street, and you live out your life going ever so slightly further along the grand highway of the universe. But then, human beings just had to go and invent time travel, and make everything that much more difficult. For instance, one fine day, in the year 764, time split. In one timeline, a dark future awaited, but a single warrior traveled to the past to rewrite history, and try and prevent the nightmare from ever starting. On the same day as the split, only a few minutes before the warrior's arrival in the past, a dark, spider-like craft silently entered the solar system, gently coasting through the void as its immensely powerful engines powered down. A harsh voice from one of the occupants echoed around the main deck. "How long until we arrive, father?" A mechanical tail thrashed impatiently against the floor, leaving cracks in the metal. "Calm yourself, Cooler." A much larger figure, reclining in a throne and sipping from a wine glass, replied to the first speaker. "We will enter Earth's orbit in mere moments. Then we can find the Super Saiyan you spoke so much of." "Are you absolutely certain they are on Earth?" Cooler asked, ignoring the previous answer. "If you continue this impertinence, I may have to demonstrate why it is I, not you, that really runs this galaxy." The towering horned figure snapped. "But to answer your question, yes, I am 100% sure. As per your incessant whining, I have been monitoring the entire Empire, and several beings matching your descriptions were located on this planet. They are here. The sooner we are done with this, the better. It's a giant waste of time, if you ask me." "Father! They killed my elite squadron and mortally wounded me!" "So?" It was just Goku's luck. He had to sense the enormous, evil power level right in the middle of breakfast. He swallowed a mouthful of pancakes, wiping his mouth and jumping to his feet. "Sorry, Chi-Chi, I gotta go." "What? Why?" His wife eyed him with suspicion. "An enormous evil presence just appeared on the planet. I don't like it. I'm gonna go check it out." He disappeared out of the doorway. "Wait, I'm coming too!" Gohan ran up to his room, throwing off his clothes and pulling on his orange gi. Chi-Chi stormed up the stairs after him. "Oh no you don't, young man, you get right back." She skidded into the bedroom to find an open window and a quickly vanishing orange figure soaring off into the sky. "Here, oh, Gohan, why do you have to be so brave? Just a little kid." Goku and Gohan landed in the middle of the eastern wasteland, on a plateau overlooking the ship, which had come to rest on Earth. Mere moments later, they were joined by Piccolo, Nail, Tien, Yamcha, Krillin, and Zarbon, all flying in from different directions. "So, you guys felt it too, huh?" Goku asked, to a chorus of assent. "Hey, is it just me, or is that energy signal familiar?" Tien stared down at the ship, squatting like a giant, ugly insect on the landscape. "Yeah, now that you mention it," Goku frowned. "Of course. Huh?" Krillin glanced around at the concerned faces. "What did I miss?" "I'm lost too." "Of course," Nail nodded, realizing. Not everyone was on Namek, and Zarbon couldn't sense ki back then. Cooler is in that spaceship. "Cooler?" Yamcha, who had been dead by the time Cooler had arrived on Namek, put his head into his hands. "That's it. We're done. We're dead. We're all dead. Oh, thank you so very much, Raditz. Nice job killing him." Goku lightly punched Yamcha on the arm in an attempt to shut him up, accidentally knocking the much weaker fighter to the ground. Goku attempted to raise everyone's spirits. "Alright, let's stay calm. I wish we didn't have to fight, but knowing Cooler, I think it's fairly safe to say it's going to happen. There's more of us this time. Maybe we have a chance." "I think you're avoiding the elephant in the room," Tien grimaced. "There's a second power in that ship, even higher than Cooler's. Any way you look at it, this isn't good." Cooler walked out onto the surface of the Earth, stepping out of his vessel's shadow. I was expecting a dump, but this planet isn't bad." His metallic feet clicked on the rocky ground. Cooler had been heavily modified, robotic parts added to compensate for his grievous injuries suffered on Namek. He was entirely mechanical from the waist down, and had various similar bionic parts on his upper body. "Perhaps we should sell it then, when we are done here?" King Cold, his father, asked. Cold was massive, having to duck to get through the ship's hatch. He somewhat resembled Frieza's second form, with the size, imposing musculature, and upwards curving horns. He was easily larger than any form of either of his sons, and his purple coloration was much deeper shade than Frieza's. He wore customized black armor, and a richly fashioned cape hung from his shoulders. "No," Cooler was firm. "He dies, and then this planet. I will leave no trace that the Saiyan race ever existed." Soldiers began to file out and examine the surrounding area. "Very well." King Cold shrugged, tossing his wine glass aside for the hapless flunky to catch it before it broke. "Let's just find this Super Saiyan and kill him and be done with it. Agreed?" "Apparently that's the only thing we can agree on," Cooler muttered. "Alright, let's..." He noticed a humanoid figure in the distance, partially obscured by the heat haze, walking slowly towards them. Who is that? All eyes turned to the distant newcomer. Abruptly, the figure flickered and reappeared much closer, continuing its unhurried approach. "I don't know this one," Cooler said dismissively. "Must be a local." "Sir!" a bird-like soldier reported, tapping his scouter. "Power level's only 10. Orders?" "Just kill the primate," Cold snapped. "We wasted too much time already, and I can't be bothered to listen to some primitive's babbling." The soldier nodded, raising his arm-mounted blaster and firing off a shot. It arced through the air, but before it hit home, the approaching figure vanished. The wind picked up, and an invisible force seemed to collide with the soldiers one by one, each trooper collapsing to the floor, unconscious, but not dead, only the minimum amount of force necessary used to knock each one out. King Cold wrinkled his nose in displeasure. "You know, some of those troops were equal in power to the Ginyu Force. That wasn't very considerate of you." He was following something with his eyes, and Cooler was doing likewise. "Oh, and you can stop running around like that. Your speed may have been sufficient to let you evade our soldiers' senses, but we can see you just fine. Dashing back and forth just makes you look silly." A blue blur condensed into the human being, standing silently 10 meters from the Frost Demons. "Yes, well done. You can hide your power level on an accomplished fighter," Cooler spoke up, getting agitated. "But you're starting to annoy me, with your acting superior and giving us the silent treatment. And people who will annoy me don't last long in this world." He extended one hand and fired a thick purple energy beam. "It should clear up this mess, then we can get down to business." There was a burst of golden light, and the stranger exploded with power, their body enveloped in a bright yellow aura before the beam engulfed them. Cooler's attack faded, revealing empty, barren ground. The intended target stood several meters to the side, having dodged at the last second. The intense heat and emanating power incinerated the unconscious soldiers. Internal explosions rocked the nearby ship as sensors and instruments backfired. Ah, so this is the Super Saiyan you spoke of, King Cold asked, raising an eyebrow. No, it's not him. Cooler shrank back in fear. Another one? Well, the description seems accurate. Golden aura, high power, hair standing up. Father! He crippled me and threw me into the cart of an exploding planet. I'd remember him anywhere. And this is not Raditz! Fine then, Cooler sighed. We'll just kill them all one by one if we have to. He was about to tell his son that he'd be happy to stand back and let Cooler deal with it himself, when a roar of pure rage came from in front of the demons, and the Super Saiyan was upon them. Whoa, check it out! Krillin shielded himself from the shockwaves of power. Whoever that guy is, he's putting out power like nothing I've ever seen before! And he's a Super Saiyan? Tien blinked, then pinched himself. No, not dreaming. I wonder what it looks like, Goku grinned. Wow, look at him go! Just ripped Cooler into pieces with its bare hands, like it was nothing! I'm sure it helped that Cooler didn't transform, but our boy may have just been able to handle him anyway. Tien added. There's another battle cry, another flash of light. I couldn't even follow that one, Gohan said, open-mouthed in shock. Me either. Goku narrowed his eyes, squinting to see if he could follow it better, both with his 5 conventional senses and his ki detection. But it looks like the big guy behind Cooler just got blown away. Man, I don't know who this guy is, but he couldn't have picked a better moment to intervene. We'd have stood no chance ourselves. Wonder who he is. All the Saiyans except Raditz, Vegeta, and me are supposed to be dead, but that doesn't feel like Raditz or Vegeta. Excuse me. Nail hadn't spoken in a while, as opposed to Piccolo, who hadn't spoken at all. I may not be an expert in human and Saiyan biology, but I believe that he is a she. Really? Goku looked down at the stranger, who, with all enemies obliterated, was powering back down to normal and back up at Nail. How can you tell? Namekian hearing is extremely sensitive, Nail explained. She was shouting incoherently, I might add, while she killed those two. It was definitely a female voice. Yeah, but Yamcha was about to explain why a girl couldn't possibly be such a powerful fighter, then stopped as he realized there really wasn't a reason at all. Okay. Hello up there! The mystery girl was looking up and waving, calling out to the assembled group. Can we talk? I don't want to fight you or anything. Cautiously, the Earth's defenders flew down to the plain where the invading army had stood moments before. Hi, Goku said, smiling and holding out a hand. That was amazing, but I have to wonder, how is it that you're a Super Saiyan? The girl shook his hand, doing her best to smile, but it was clear she hadn't had much experience. She was in her mid to late teens, quite tall, with dark blue hair that hung in loose curls down to her shoulders, and had an air of constantly being on edge about her. She wore a scuffed blue jacket, which, interestingly enough, bore the Capsule Corporation logo on the left shoulder. Underneath, she wore a plain black vest and trousers, all a little worn. Over her back was slung a red fighting staff, which those whose senses were developed enough to watch the battle would have noticed she used to knock out the common soldiers before transforming. It's complicated. I'm not sure how much it's safe to tell you without... Well, anyway, it's very difficult. I came here to deliver a warning, but I want to wait until you're all here. All here? Goku looked confused as he considered this, his brain not quite yet reaching the question of, how does she know us? What do you mean by that? I mean, in a few minutes, Raditz is going to return to Earth. If I told you everything now, I'd just end up repeating it. Follow me. I know where he'll arrive. Puzzled group, having pretty much figured out that asking how and why wasn't getting anywhere, simply followed the strange girl through the air. They landed in a patch of rocky ground that looked exactly like the patch of rocky ground they'd been standing on in the first place, only minus a spaceship. The girl was standing perfectly still, looking expectantly up at the sky. 10 minutes passed. Piccolo was meditating. Yamcha was practicing his wolf fang fist on some unfortunate rocks. Zarbon was pacing. Goku was half asleep, yawning as he tried to pay attention to Gohan's babbling on about a bird he'd seen that morning. Be patient, is all the girl would say. Another 10 minutes. A pinpoint of light appeared in the vast blue sky. It grew into a spherical shape, which crashed into the ground at full speed. It always seemed impressive and dangerous to onlookers, but it was probably just the way the Planet Trade Organization's transport pods were designed to land. That or the Saiyan inside simply had no idea how to fly the thing. The fighters approached the smoking crater, peering down into it as the pod's hatch cracked open. And just as predicted, Raditz stumbled out, dressed in plain, brown, somewhat ragged clothes. He gave a small smile as he saw everyone looking down at him from the rim of the crater, and floated up to meet them. Well, hello again. He stretched, breathing deeply. It feels good to be out of that cramped little pod. Well, sorry I took so long getting home. Damn thing's controls made no sense. These new mods, I swear, they don't make them like they used to. So, how come you all knew I was coming? He was tackle-hugged by Gohan, and silently acknowledged the boy's affections with a pat on the head, grinning to see Goku alive and well. Ask her, Krillin replied. Whoever she is, you just missed one hell of a show. Yeah, I was wondering about that. Raditz folded his arms, turning to look at the girl. I was racing Cooler and his father home. His father? Came an outburst from the side. Shush, Yamcha! Krillin hissed. And I was going to intercept them as soon as they got to Earth, Raditz continued, ignoring the human's interruption. When their energy disappeared, and for a short time another huge power appeared. He indicated her. That was you? She nodded. I guess, now you're all here, I should give you an explanation. About damn time, Piccolo muttered, receiving a glare from Nail. Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to disappoint you, she sighed. I can't really explain. If all goes according to plan, you'll understand in time. But I can deliver the warning I came to give you. She looked much more serious all of a sudden. In 3 years' time, I've got the exact time and date written down, she said, handing Gohan a piece of paper with some hasty scrawling on it. 2 androids will appear. Terrible, evil beings, even more powerful than a Super Saiyan. They'll destroy everything, hunt down all remnants of humanity for sport. The world will become a living nightmare. She looked at each of them in turn. I'm telling you this because if you know what's coming, you can train harder, anticipate the threat. I might be able to help you as well, but I can't promise anything. It's really down to you. You'll have to change the future for the better. Assuming we believe you, Piccolo asked, what happens to us? Do these androids kill us too? Most of you. Look, I've got personal reasons, but there's some things I'd rather only share with Goku, alright? This got mixed reactions. Better than not telling anyone, I suppose. Raditz flexed his muscles a little. But before you two take off and go talk in private, tell me, how do you know what's more powerful than Super Saiyan? He set his jaw, his expression hardened, and, with a slight burst of ki that sent the fighters closest to him staggering back, made his Super Saiyan transformation for the first time since returning to Earth. This was the first time many of them had seen this legendary Golden Warrior. I guess I forgot. Your friends never did have time to fill you in on the details. She furrowed her brow, gritted her teeth, and a second golden aura burst into life. Her hair and eyes shined with intense power. Whoa! Too much! Yamcha complained, standing even further back, in awe of such powerful, almost mythical beings. Well, that I didn't expect. Raditz looked intently at the other Super Saiyan. So, that's what it looks like from the outside. Anyway, it would explain how you defeated Cooler and his father so easily. Whoa! He flinched to the left on a reflex as the girl threw a sudden punch at his head. A low growl rose from her throat as she continued to launch quick, short-ranged attacks, Raditz stepping from side to side and avoiding each one. It didn't take long for him to get fed up, and he swept her legs out from under her, knocking her onto her back. She breathed out, returning to her normal state, and he did likewise. That was uncalled for, he said sternly. Sorry. She held up a hand in apology. I lose mental control when I transform, but I'm impressed. They said you were good, but you were amazing. Raditz couldn't help smiling at this. You flatter me. So, you were testing me. Seems as good a way as any. You're quick. Your technique lacks precision. You should work on that. She nodded, standing up and turning to Goku. Alright. Now, if you don't mind. Goku followed her into the air. Alright, let's talk. Well, here you go. This chapter is fairly similar to the original DBZ version of events, but I hope it's got enough differences to keep you entertained. And I've certainly got some surprises later on, so bear with me as we continue to diverge away from canon. Anyway, sorry King Cold fans. I know I put basically no detail into his death because A, you've seen it before, and B, it's to emphasize how quick and effortless it was. If you're that concerned and want to see more of Cold, well, he does impact the story somewhat a little later on. His role is just not to appear and die. Promise. Yeah, no power levels. Sorry, I don't think I'd be very good at coming up with them. Feel free to suggest some, but I probably won't put them here in the author's notes. It'd just be a pain deciding who I agree with and why. An excellent end to an amazing saga. I have one question though. How did Goku get revived on Earth? Last time I checked, he died on Namek. And in canon, they needed one wish to transport a soul to the Earth's check-in station. He was completely atomized. There was no body to return his soul to. So the dragon created a new one. It wasn't quite like Krillin and DBC. He was blown up, leaving dust, which the dragon restored into a body. But it had to be moved to Earth first. Goku here was more than blown up. He was torn apart at the atomic level. Nothing left at all. What would Raditz look like as a Super Saiyan 3? Would he impale himself on his own hair if he's not careful? Could he use it as a weapon? And other such joking reviews about Super Saiyan 3 Raditz. He'd just bury Boo, Dabura, and Babidi in it and end the saga in 1 minute flat. A befitting end to an era. One question though, how did Piccolo train in hell? You can't keep your body. The Dragon Ball series is pretty inconsistent about that. I think it might be a bit complicated. We know for a fact that Goku and other heroes keep their bodies. However, it's sort of iffy on whether or not Frieza / Cell, etc. kept theirs in hell. I'm gonna say it's pure good or pure evil people that have a simple enough energy to retain their bodies. Vegeta by the Buu Saga in DBZ wasn't quite good or bad. He was, like most people, neither complete hero or villain, and as such couldn't keep his body. Various comments for and against Zarbon / Bulma. Some people really want it to happen, some really don't. No comment. Great chapter to wrap up the Namek saga. I wonder who the heavy hitters are that Piccolo did his best to avoid. Do you plan on elaborating on who and what they are? Also, do you plan on having Zarbon train? He seems to be growing accustomed to Earth quite well. I can answer the Piccolo thing. I just assume there have been other powerful villains throughout history who ended up there. Will you have any other character role changes, like Android 17, for example? I'm gonna have to go with another no comment. Now that Goku has died, will he finally get the training by King Kai, or will he be revived before that? I wonder if they bothered to revive Zarbon. Poor guy. He was revived before that, and yes, you already know that by now. So did Goku learn the Kaioken while he was dead? I feel that if he had it in his battle against Cooler's 4th form, he could have taken out with the times 20 Kamehameha. Is Raditz going to train on Planet Yardrat to learn the instant transmission technique? I'm curious to see the reunion between them. And Vegeta, who remains a mystery for now. Goku did not. He wasn't dead for long enough. He just sort of hung around, waiting to be resurrected. Maybe doing some idle training on his own. As for Raditz, find out what he's been up to in the next chapter. Stay tuned for the next chapter. See you in a little bit. Note, if you read this within the first hour or so of it going up, I uploaded the wrong version. It's fixed now, but you might want to reread it. Hey there, I went and made a couple of changes to Chapter 19, nothing that affects the plot. Basically, the way Raditz breaks Cooler's hold is different, and the effects of his finishing headbutt have been reworded. Nothing major, but those were the areas that were really suspiciously similar, and made me wonder if my subconscious knew more than it was letting on. And for the record, I've talked to N.P. Berryhill, the author of Bringer of Death, and everything's fine. In fact, he even helped me with several of the scenes on this chapter. Thank you for supporting and understanding, everybody. Finally, if you don't like the name that I've come up with for the future girl, tell me. I wasn't entirely sure about it, and there'll be an explanation of where it comes from right at the end. Right, I'm sure you all want me to get on with it and write the chapter already, so I shall. What I'm about to tell you is the history that originally happened. It should have happened, so to speak. Cooler and his father arrived on Earth, but Raditz was able to get here in time to defeat them. Unfortunately, he made a mistake. And I'm sorry to say, Goku, it was kind of your fault. You urged him to spare King Cole's life, and though I don't know exactly what happened in your conversation, he did. Cold, by this point, was unconscious, and all his soldiers were too scared to intervene. Cooler was dead, so Cold and his men were forced to flee, and that was the last we saw of them for quite some time. 3 years of peace followed, in which I was born. The girl's monologue was interrupted, as Goku's brain finally made a connection. Aha! You're the child of one of us! He grinned, pleased with himself. They were standing in the flat wasteland, a couple of miles away from the others. That explains the capsule corp jacket, and how come you're like a Saiyan and a human at the same time? So, do I have a daughter, or... No. Raditz is my father. The strange girl reached up and flicked the sides of her unruly black bangs behind her ears, revealing just how much she resembled her father, with her hair back. She stood in Raditz's familiar pose, confident, but always slightly on edge, stark contrast to Goku's carefree half-slouch. Wow, cool! Raditz gets to be a dad! So, who's the mother? Goku didn't bother asking, so how are you almost an adult? You reckon she'd get to that eventually. Launch. I believe you know her. If I'm careful not to alter history in too many ways, I'll be born sometime in the next 3 years. Launch will have a baby girl, and she'll name her Break. She trailed off, thinking of her mother. She wished she had known her better. Launch, huh? With Raditz! Who'd have thought? Goku laughed out loud. That's great! He managed to calm himself down. Go on. Alright. Bray continued her story. We're still not sure what King Cold was doing for 3 years. Our best theory is that his empire was falling apart at the seams without his sons, and he was rushing around the galaxy trying to keep it together. Maybe he was scared of another defeat. Whatever happened, he returned to get revenge for his humiliation. This time, he was in his third form. So, he could transform too? Goku asked, and Break nodded. He never got the chance to today, in either timeline. Fortunately, Raditz made quick work of him, as I did. But when he returned in his third form, Raditz was no match for him, even as a Super Saiyan. And even with the help of Earth's most powerful warriors, Cooler was untouchable. Plus, based on your previous encounters with Frieza and Cooler on Namek, everyone feared that he had at least one more form left. They were completely outmatched by this terrifying enemy, and it was getting to the point of no hope. So as a last resort, my brave father used a technique he learned while in space to save us all. Instant transmission. It let him instantaneously move around and anyone he touched to anywhere he could see or sense. Sounds pretty bad, Goku added, his demeanor shifting from his typical lightheartedness into concern for the lives of his friends and family, even those from a different version of history. So, did he move Cold to some distant location in space, then come back to Earth? No. Break's face darkened. Staring at the ground in frustration, the girl ground a small rock into dust with her foot. That wouldn't have worked. Cold's race can survive in the depths of space, and he would have just come back again. Plus, I don't think my father had enough range to get them outside the solar system. Raditz... She paused, a sudden rush of emotion making her almost choke on the words. He teleported himself, and Cold with him, into the heart of the sun. It was a surprise, apparently. He'd obviously experienced a great deal of change since first coming to Earth, but nobody would have ever expected such a selfless deed from him. Goku looked over at his brother's distant figure. He did that. Naturally, the Dragon Balls were gathered to bring him back. But, of course, that had to be the day when the android struck. The girl clenched her fists in anger once again. Even the thought of those two gave her a sense of panic. A feeling of constantly looking over your shoulder, always fearing the end might be moments away. Yeah, you mentioned them. Goku hopped up and down with excitement. Another enemy more powerful than a Super Saiyan was coming. This is what he wanted to hear. Are they tough? They're monsters. She gave her father's signature scowl at the mere mention of the duo terrorizing her world. They struck a random city, for fun, I guess, and destroyed one of the Dragon Balls before they'd all been collected. Before Kami could recreate the ball, it was over. The planet's strongest fighters, Tien, Krillin, Yamcha, Piccolo, Nail, Zarbon, everyone died. Only a few of us escaped. Over the next 17 years, they've been hunting down and destroying the last remnants of humanity. It's a living nightmare. We have to stop it from ever happening. And, do I die fighting the androids? Goku gulped. You didn't mention me. I'm sorry. She shook her head. You died of a heart virus during the 3 years of peace. It's unknown now, but in my time we have a cure. She pulled a small vial out of her pocket and tossed it to Goku. Here, take it if you ever catch a seemingly untreatable disease. It'll cause fever, chest pains, and eventually incapacitation. Death follows in a couple of days. Wow, thanks! Goku clutched the vital medicine in his hand. Hearing how you're going to die, then being given a chance to avoid it in advance. It's so weird. And that brings me to the last part of my story. It might answer any remaining questions you have. Bulma, a woman I believe you know very well, was one of the survivors. She's like the mother I never had, really. We're all extremely lucky to have her. As you know, she's a scientific genius, and recently in my time, about 20 years from now to you, she finished her latest creation, a vehicle capable of traveling through time. Unfortunately, once again, disaster struck at the worst possible moment. Age 784. The building was disguised to look like just another ruin dotting the landscape, but inside, it was a fully working multidisciplinary laboratory, with salvaged equipment from the 2 decades of scavenging. Bulma, assisted by her son Trunks, spent most of her time in there, staying awake on determination and enough coffee to supply a small nation. Her work, however, had finally paid off. The time machine, roughly spherical, with a glass cockpit bubble, and balanced on the ground on several spindly metal legs, stood just outside the lab, ready to go. It was bright yellow, proudly bearing the Capsule Corporation logo as a memory of old times. And the time and place coordinates were already programmed in. It just needed a passenger. Alright, Gohan said. He was a grown man now, with old scars and a world-weary look on his face, but an air of hope always seemed to shine through. He was still wearing his turtle school gi to honor his father, whom he hadn't seen since he was a child. With him were Bulma, wearing her pajamas from 3 nights before, and with the mandatory coffee mug at hand. Last night putting on the finishing touches had been one of those nights. Trunks, her son, bearing the same pale green skin as his deceased father, and a mess of lavender hair. An oddity. Surely purple would be a result of red and blue hair, not green and blue mixing. That had never been adequately explained. Standing beside her in a casual shirt and jeans, and Brig, smiling as she thought of the possibility that they might actually have a chance to put things right. Gohan continued speaking. Are we all clear on the plan? Trunks nodded. Whoever goes has to take out Cooler and King Cold before Raditz arrives, or at least stop him from sparing Cold's life, and deliver the medicine to Goku. Then, they'll have to warn the whole group of what's coming. Break picked up where he left off. So, with Goku and Raditz still alive, and 3 years of preparation, they'll stand a much better chance against the androids than we did in our timeline. She almost couldn't believe it. What if they actually could do it? It seemed too good to be true. In her world, if something seemed too good to be true, it usually was. So naturally she had her doubts, though she put them down to habitual paranoia. But more than that, she desperately wanted to be the one to go back. The chance to meet her parents for what was basically the first time, she'd been too young to remember them before, was incredible. Not to mention all the legendary figures Gohan was always telling them about. Goku and Piccolo and Tien, and all the others she'd heard of, but never seen. Right, I see you've all done your homework, Gohan replied, smiling a little. If you look closely, you could still see the optimistic little boy who went to space and back for the sake of people he'd barely known. but the happy light in his eyes was dimmed, and sometimes it just seemed like he was tired of living. Then again, the life he led, who wouldn't be? That's wonderful, Bulma yawned, trying to take a sip of coffee, but missing her mouth. But I haven't slept in 72 hours, so can we just hurry up and save the future already? Calm down, Mom, Trunks said, laughing. This is important. So, there's only one thing left to decide. Who's going? Gohan considered this. On balance, I think the person going back is in the most danger and has the most difficult job. Since you two are just kids, and no offense, Bulma, you're no fighter, I think I should go. No way! I can handle it, Trunks protested. Besides, we need you here. Hey, Break cut in. I'm much more powerful than you, Trunks. I'd be able to take care of myself a lot easier. But yeah, Gohan, you should stay. What if the androids... Her quivering voice trailed off, interrupted from above by a terrifying shadow. Oh, do go on, the cruel voice called out. What if the androids do what? All eyes turned upwards in fear. Not now! They were so close! Damn! Gohan mentally cursed himself for holding this talk outside. The time machine itself needed to be outdoors to work, but they should have waited until they had absolutely sorted everything out before wheeling it out. We've left ourselves exposed. Goku and Raditz would never have made a mistake like this. Gohan emptied his mind, achieving mental balance and powering up to Super Saiyan. Bulma! Get inside! He shouted. She scrambled in through the door. There was a passage underground. She'd know the plan. The lab would be empty of people and vital equipment within 2 minutes. Gohan just hoped he could hold them that long. The androids descended to the opposite side of the small clearing between the ruined buildings. 17, a black-haired teenage boy wearing a red scarf, stood slightly in front of 18, a blonde girl of similar age in a denim jacket. They were almost exactly equal in height and build, giving a strange overall appearance, opposite, yet the same. Well, 17, look at this merry little gathering. How rude of them to start without us, 18 said in her all too familiar mocking tone. Gohan's mind raced. He was sure he could drag out the fight long enough that Bulma could evacuate the lab and escape, but he'd probably lose his own life in the process. That was bad enough, but Break, Trunks, and the time machine were here too. He couldn't think of any way to distract both the killer machines long enough to get the kids and the machine to safety. Break. Trunks' voice cut through the nervous silence. Get in the time machine. Go. I know Gohan won't leave us to face them. It has to be you. Trunks! Break stared, shock creeping into her face. You'll die if you try to fight them. You don't think I know that? Trunks' eyes began to fill with tears. These things killed my father. I won't run away when I could give you a chance to change all this. With the start, the Saiyans realized that the boy had never actually fought the androids. He'd always held more of a support role, aiding escapes and moving bystanders to safety. He was a fairly competent fighter, but definitely not on the level of a Super Saiyan, and with no real battle experience except training with the others. He'd always wanted to fight, but reluctantly agreed that he'd only be getting himself killed. Hurry, before they attack! He yelled, turning to face the androids, who looked like they were growing bored. Get out of here! His mind was made up, and Break knew that he wasn't going to budge. Alright, she sniffed a little. I won't forget you, she promised, climbing into the time machine. Her voice betrayed her sense of fear, the worry that she might never return, and if she did, everyone she cared about would be dead. Come on, turn on already! The initiation sequence began, the machine powering on agonizingly slowly. Well, I'm starting to get bored, 17 decided. Let's have a little fun with them, 18. Sounds good to me, his female counterpart replied. Gohan and Trunks tensed for battle, putting themselves between the androids and the time machine. Gohan's golden aura rippled as tension built in his body. Trunks snarled as he powered up to maximum, his canines elongating into fangs and his eyes blazing yellow, another trace of Zarbon's DNA. Alright, come on! He yelled, his determination to protect the break and assure she made it safely to the pass, completely overriding his fear of the androids. Ah, so you do want to fight. 17 narrowed his eyes. That's good. It's so boring when they give up and try to run away. Chasing humans is only fun for a couple of minutes. Then it just gets repetitive. Yeah! Gohan charged forwards, surprising his enemies by making the first move, his jump kick taking 18 off her feet. He pressed his advantage, his fists flying and landing a stream of furious blows, but realized after several seconds that she could have easily dodged if she wanted to. She just felt like showing off her durability today. Damn it, what does it take? He grumbled, bringing his arm around for another attack. She saw it coming and vaulted over his head, laughing to herself a little as she landed behind Gohan, facing away from him. Trunks was left facing off against 17. The dark-haired android brushed back his hair, smirking. "This won't take long," he said. "You've made yourself very annoying, running around and ruining our games. I think it was last week you stole a few of our playthings. So we'll have some fun killing you. And then we'll get around to the girl, whatever it is she's trying to do." That set off something inside Trunks and he leapt at 17. But the android intercepted his attack with one hand, whirling the other around and smashing it into Trunks' side, jarring against his ribs. Trunks staggered off to the side, and 17 casually walked over towards him. Trunks whirled, firing a continuous stream of energy bolts from both hands, but they impacted on his implacable foe with no visible effect. 17 just grinned. Then his image wavered. Within a second, he was inches from Trunks. And then the android thrust his hands forward, and all the pain in the world gathered itself up and dropped into Trunks' stomach. Gah! He shrieked, and Break looked up on hearing the noise, frantically trying to hurry the time machine. It had initiated its final countdown, and had only a few seconds to go before it was fully ready. The picture that greeted Break brought tears to her eyes and despair to her mind. Gohan was on the floor trying to get up, but every time he made an effort to stand, 18 kicked him back down, tutting and shaking her head. 17 had shoved his arm right through Trunks' middle, dark green blood dripping out of his hand. And he was chuckling to himself as wordless screams fought their way out of the boy's mouth. Trunks gathered all his willpower and forced himself to speak, staring 17 right in the eyes. "I'm dying now. I know that. You killed my father, and all his friends, and now me too. But..." He grabbed hold of 17's upper arm and held on with all his might. "I'm not going alone!" Energy started to crackle up and down his body, and 17's eyes widened. He tried to pull his arm out, but the combined force of his own attack piercing his victim's body, and Trunks' death grip was too much for him to escape in such a short space of time. White light hissing and spitting shimmered around the two of them, and all too quickly they were consumed in a colossal explosion. Tears flowed freely as Break pressed the ignition, and with little more than a quiet hum and a gentle vibration, she was transported 20 years into the past, leaving her adoptive family to fight and die without her. Age 764. And that's when I got back here, Break finished telling Goku. I took a few minutes to compose myself, then went to deal with King Cold. Huh. And here I thought you had everything under control. Goku looked genuinely concerned. Wonder if Gohan will be alright. I don't know, Break shrugged, rubbing her eyes. Maybe Trunks' sacrifice killed 17. Maybe not. Either way, maybe Gohan escaped, and maybe they killed him. I just don't know. I carried out the plan anyway. Do you understand now? I wanted to tell Raditz more since he's the Super Saiyan and therefore our best hope, but I haven't been born yet. Who knows what'll happen if he finds out? I might never exist. But I can trust you, right? She looked at him hopefully, and Goku saw past the mystery visitor from the future to the frightened child underneath. You won't tell anybody what I've told you? Sure. Goku gave a thumbs up, much to her relief. I'll tell everybody about the androids and what to expect, but as for you, I'll just tell them to wait and see, okay? Thank you so much. She did her best to smile, but again, it was obvious that happiness had been a rare thing for her growing up. Alright, look. If you all train hard these 3 years, you'll stand a better chance when the androids do appear. Plus, you'll have Raditz, and who knows, maybe you can become a Super Saiyan as well. Hey, that'd be cool, Goku chuckled. Wonder what my hair would look like. By the way, how did you become a Super Saiyan? What happened? Nothing, actually. For some reason, I've been able to transform from an early age, but my emotions get even more out of control than the normal Super Saiyans. Can't think clearly at all. I guess I get that from my mother. Such a weird coincidence, her turning blonde and getting violent as well. It must have been mixed with the Super Saiyan genes or something. I'm not a scientist, I don't know. Oh, okay. Goku wondered what this timeline's version of Break would look like. Well, anyway, I wanted to ask, is that my power pole on your back? Yep. Break drew the unique weapon, idly spinning it around. Gohan gave it to me. He always thought of it as sort of a symbol, a reminder of you. He said whenever you were around, everything was alright. Thank you, Break. Goku looked serious again, the mention of Gohan sobering his mind. For coming back to change all this. You, Gohan, Trunks, you shouldn't have had to grow up without any parents. Don't worry, we'll make things right. There was something encouraging about his words. I believe you, Goku. Good luck, all of you. She looked apprehensive. Well, I have to go. I don't want to stay here too long, or I might affect the timeline in more ways than I intended. And I have to find out if anybody survived. But once I've checked how things are in my future, I'll return, 3 years from today, and see if I can help you against the androids. That sounds great. Goku waved a mock salute. See you then. He watched the girl from the future fly off into the waste, presumably back towards wherever she'd hidden her time machine. Or if it was in a capsule, simply to a remote location to use it. So sad. She's a kid who's had to grow up far too soon. Well, are you going to explain what all that was about? Raditz was practically venting steam and impatience. I can't really tell you all of it. Will you trust me? For her sake, a lot of what she's told me has to remain a secret until later. Goku was clearly uncomfortable with keeping the truth a secret. Please? Well, damn it, what can you tell us? His brother asked. Goku explained carefully all about the androids, their appearance and abilities. As for the girl, she'll return in time to help us fight the androids. By then, I think it'll be safe to tell you the rest. It must be something extremely important, Tien thought to himself, if even Goku can resist telling the truth. By the way, Goku continued pointing to Raditz's plain brown, somewhat ragged clothes. What's with the caveman getup? Well, the pod I got into had a pre-programmed route set for the planet Yardrat, and I had to go there before I could get it to take me to Earth. I stayed there for a while, but their style of clothing was ridiculous, so I made my own. Raditz sighed. I had a lot to think about, staying on Yardrat. It struck me as exactly the kind of rich, beautiful planet with weak natives that I'd have conquered while working for Frieza, wiping out the entire population without a second thought. But they didn't even know of Frieza or the Saiyans, so they offered me nothing but kindness. They were all living, breathing beings. Individuals, each with families, lives, histories, their own little personality quirks. His voice was wavering. The kind of people who offer shelter to a complete stranger, nursing them back to health and letting them stay for weeks in their homes. I even made friends with some of them. Would you believe it? But before, I've killed so many. People just like them. I would have, you know, a year ago. I almost wanted to kill the Yardrats too. For no other reason other than that's just what I do. He looked over at Goku, his face a battleground of emotion. Hey, Raditz. Goku put a hand on his brother's shoulder. It's okay now. You didn't, is the important thing. You've changed. That's just it! The older Saiyan snapped. I don't know where I stand, Goku. He continued so quickly, Goku didn't even have time to ask what happened to Kakarot. I've changed, but not enough, or maybe too much. I'm not like you. The things I've done, I don't think I ever can be. But I'm not like I used to be, like Vegeta still is. I can't just do what I want with no moral cares. I want to kill, but I can't bring myself to. I'm a Saiyan warrior, but I don't know what that means anymore. I'm sorry. Goku was wide-eyed, trying to empathize. But he had been blessed with very little moral ambiguity in his life. Found Raditz's conflict difficult to imagine. But I'm not sure I can help. It sounds like you need to sort some things out. Your state of mind right now? It really doesn't sound very healthy. Raditz took 10 seconds to mentally compose his reply. I'm going, he decided. Where? I've been in space for far too long. I've learned a technique that lets me travel anywhere instantly. And I finally found the energy signature of the person I've been waiting to see for months. He brushed Goku off, raising 2 fingers to his forehead, and vanished. It wasn't simply speed. There was no energy to follow. His ki simply disappeared, instantly reappearing on the other side of the planet. Launch, currently in her shy, blue-haired state, was humming to herself as she stood on the beach outside a rebuilt Kame house, idly skimming stones across the ocean. Away, the rocks flew across the surface of the water, framed against the sunset, was strangely mesmerizing. Her last one bounced 6 times, the day's record, before being plucked out of the air. Raditz stood on the sand in front of her, holding the stone out. Is this yours? He asked, smiling despite his inner turmoil when he saw her. Launch beamed, skipping forwards and hugging him around the waist. I knew you'd come back! I knew it! Why had she missed him so much? Truthfully, he didn't know. They hadn't been that close when he left for Namek. Maybe she was drawn to that difference, that uniqueness. And she didn't get more different than an alien warrior. Besides, she'd sensed there was more to him than the arrogant exterior he projected. Raditz had similar thoughts. Should he be getting too attached to this human? But there was something special about her. In both personas. The blonde one was always questioning, confronting him. Practically the only human never to show any fear of him. Maybe she reminded him of his own warlike people. As for the shy one, there was something in her eyes. Trusting, not judging anyone. And right now, he needed that. Hey. He threw the stone to the side and gazed down at her. She only came up to the tall alien's shoulders. He took her hand in both of his. It's okay. Everything's fine now. The moment was somewhat ruined when neither of them knew what to say. Raditz started to say something, realized how ridiculous it sounded, and tripped over his own tongue, ending up with a sort of senseless mumble. Launch laughed out loud. In retrospect, it was better than anything he could have said. Raditz stood on the roof of Kame House, bracing himself against the cold wind. It was midnight, or close enough. I've decided, he said to nobody at all. He'd sat up with Launch all night, just talking about everything they could think of, until it didn't matter what they were saying anymore. It was communication, the odd girl out and the runt of the litter, finding something they never knew they'd been missing. And now she was asleep, he found himself still needing to talk. What he'd decided needed to be said aloud. It made it a promise of sorts. This planet, with its wonderful, ridiculous, oblivious people, it's worth defending. I've seen where the life I used to live leads. You die forgotten in some barren little world in the middle of nowhere, where you live and end up just like Frieza and his family. How could he have hated them so much? The Saiyans were really just like them. I won't live that way anymore! Without trying to, he burst into his Super Saiyan form, lighting up the night for miles around. Accidents were narrowly avoided as distant ships mistook him for a lighthouse. For the first time in his life, he had something to fight for. Something to lose. This is my home now. And when these androids show themselves, I'm going to send them straight to hell! In case you didn't get the chapter name, I don't know how well known the thing it's based on is. It's based on the DBZ Not Quite movie, Plan to Eradicate the Saiyans. If this was a comedy series, I would have definitely have instead written a chapter called Plan to Discombobulate the Saiyans. I love that that's actually a word. Anyway, Break. Well, it's got two origins actually, though they're sort of the same. Confused yet? Okay. Her mother's name is Lunch in the manga, Launch in the anime. So I went from lunch to breakfast and took the first half of the word to make it shorter. Plus, break, like launch, is a somewhat violent verb. It implies action and strength. At least I think so. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed a glimpse of the alternate future, and a bit of overdue in some people's opinion, character development. I was first thinking it was Zarbon and Bulma's daughter, but her becoming a Super Saiyan rules that out of the equation. The other two explanations would be Goku/Bulma, no, and Gohan/Bulma, hell no! I'm curious about who this character is. Well, it wasn't Bulma's daughter at all. Not sure why you thought Goku, who's married, or Gohan, who's about 15 to 20 years younger, I think, would be with Bulma. Regarding the unknown female from the future, pure awesome. It's something we've all probably wondered before. What if Trunks had been a girl, but you actually brought the character to life? I already feel a connection with the character, and I can't wait to find out more about her. Well, I'm guessing this chapter did that. I did have some objections to whether or not Raditz would have been able to defeat Cooler last chapter, though. First off, their power levels were the same ratio as Vegeta was to Dodoria when they fought, and Vegeta effortlessly dominated. Raditz was around 90% of Cooler's power, just as Dodoria was around 90% of Vegeta's, yet the gap seemed insurmountable in the case of the latter. In Bringer of Death, Super Saiyan Vegeta was 97% of Cooler's power and was thus able to bridge the gap, with his superior skill and planning. However, in the case of Raditz, who was never known for his exceptional skills in battle, I feel that it was very unlikely he would win. He wrote the fight in such a way as to present his victory by determination alone. However, I find this to be a very unrealistic outcome. Consider that when Super Saiyan Vegeta later fought King Cold's third form, he was about 94% of Cold's power, yet the Frost Demon was able to handle him with relative ease, in part due to Cold's fighting abilities being more advanced than Cooler's. But I think the point is made. This wouldn't have been a problem if you had David Starling as your physics/mathematician/power level expert/editor, though. That is a good point. However, well, my reasoning in this instance is basically to cite Toriyama's slight inconsistency. Say that there probably isn't a fixed number I can apply. Though if you think that you have a system that works, go ahead. I maybe should have put Cooler at 155 million or so to make the gap smaller, and point out that Super Saiyan Goku vs. Frieza, admittedly there were mitigating factors such as how much Goku was trying, his tiredness, being unused to his power, etc. But I'm sure there's an extremely long, geeky argument I can make for this whole thing, which would end in me losing anyway, and in my opinion takes second place to the plot. So I'm not going to go into it. And I'm going to say that not posting power levels anymore is probably a good thing, seeing as how I don't have a detailed system for retaining consistency. One thing about the new chapter, in my opinion, you should have ended with the Super Saiyan girl telling Goku who she is instead of doing the cliffhanger like this. Anyway, I know who she is anyway. Still think I'd have preferred the other possibility on who returns in this timeline. Any chance we get a second time traveler that isn't Cell? I want Zarbon Jr. I could have done that, but I hope you can see what I was going for, opening this chapter with Break's narrative and her identity coming to light along the way. Also, I think that Zarbon Jr., or as we now know him, Trunks, is probably now unlikely to use the time machine. He's just a little bit dead. Well, I started reading this story only 2 days ago, and I must say I'm quite hooked. One of the few things able to keep me occupied in this present time. I can't wait for more. Also, Raditz and Launch's kid. Her normal state Lunch. Super Saiyan Launch. I could still be very wrong, but if I'm right, nice touch, guys. Ooh, good call. To you and everybody who guessed this. Well, this was certainly a development. A quick note, though. It's going way too quickly. The story's becoming one major event after another, and though I know you don't want to rewrite what happened in canon DBZ, it helps to slow things down and creates a nostalgic feel. And while I sympathize with your want to not rehash canon events, I think you're leaning a bit too far in the other direction. Your pacing is incredibly breakneck to the point where we really don't get a sense of progress or passing time. Major events happen so fast that it almost reads more as a highlight reel than a consistent narrative. In cutting out filler, I think you may have gone a little too far in the meat and are throwing out the baby with the bathwater and having absolutely no downtime between major events. Point's taken. I'll work on it. Did this chapter help? I don't think it moved as fast as some. It did have one battle in the middle, but that had already happened that morning. It will happen 20 years in the future. Will already have happened that morning 20 years from... damn time travel tenses. The Saiyan girl, though, from the future. Raditz and Bulma, I'm assuming, or maybe someone else. The other pairing would have to be Launch and Raditz. Uncontrolled power seems a bit of a giveaway. I don't think Vegeta will be with Bulma now, I don't think. However, why does she want to speak with Goku? Why not Raditz, since he's the powerful Super Saiyan here? Because she didn't want to tell Raditz she's his daughter, or it might stop her ever existing, since events as they stand lead to her being born. She doesn't want to mess with things. Goku is the next most powerful, a potential Super Saiyan himself, and if he keeps his mouth shut, events will proceed as they did. Various comments asking if there will be a Meta Frieza. Wait and see. Good chapter. Did Goku train with King Kaya? King Kaya? Is that King Kai's evil twin? But seriously, in regards to all the questions about Goku, no, he wasn't dead for nearly long enough. Who trained where and how much everyone's improved will be answered in the next chapter, when they all gathered to plan strategy and whatnot. Shame that Raditz didn't use his watch the birdie attack that he tried to use 2 times in the anime, but got interrupted before using. First time when picking up Goku's power level, and second time when Goku grabbed his tail. They only named that in the anime, and I was under the impression that it was called Double Sunday, or something equally silly. In the manga, it's just a generic energy blast, but has Raditz developed any name techniques while in space? Will he over the next 3 years? I don't actually know. Amazing. So, Trunks is a girl, and I guess she is Raditz and Launch's daughter. And very nice. I lose mental control when I transform. I can see her already pointing to the full power Super Saiyan, where they get full control of the transformation, thoughts, and feelings. I was more pointing to her mother being Launch. Her Super Saiyan transformation has the normal emotional change from Super Saiyan, plus Launch's aggressive blonde state on top of it. This meant she could transform at an early age without needing a trigger event. But whenever she does, she goes completely ballistic, like Broly levels of instability, but obviously nowhere near his power. I know this is extremely shaky science. I'm an extremely shaky scientist. Actually, I'm not a scientist at all. Not professionally, anyway. It's DBZ after all. We can't all be on a trip and analyze everything to 10 decimal places. I'd rather write Super Saiyans fighting androids. How about you? No disrespect to on a trip. Really. See you on Wednesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know what? I'm gonna give you all one more chapter. Because I'm nice. Stay tuned. The day after Break's visit to the past, and Cooler and King Cold's defeat, there was a large gathering at the Capsule Corporation facility. It was early morning, and mist curled around the outside of the building as the sun made its first peek over the horizon. Inside stood the assembled inhabitants of Capsule Corp: Bulma, Dr. and Mrs. Brief, Zarbon, and Nail, Kame House, Master Roshi, Krillin, Launch, and Raditz, and Mount Paozu, Goku, Chi-Chi, and Gohan, also joined by Tien, Chaozu, Yamcha, and Piccolo. Goku had just finished repeating what Break had told him about the androids. Despite numerous people pressing him for information about Break herself, Goku would say no more. He'd given his word, and that was the end of it. Raditz, now wearing another replica of the outfit Bulma had made for him, minus the body armor, spoke up. Well, anyway, I've been gone for a while, and to be honest, ever since Vegeta and Nappa arrived on Earth, we've been in non-stop motion. So I never got the chance to ask. Tien, Krillin, the bald former monk in training replied. Right, Krillin. What was King Kai's training like? I've seen that it had outstanding results, but what actually happened? Oh, we've already told the others this while you were gone, Tien said. But anyway, it was strange. Several months after Tien's death during the battle between Raditz and Piccolo, Tien staggered on a few more steps, his vision swimming and collapsed face down. I'm done! That's it, I'm taking a rest! He wheezed. I can't go on any longer. When that ogre said Snake Way was 1,000,000 miles long, I thought he was exaggerating. He rolled over onto his back, gasping for breath. Something appeared at the edge of his vision. All three eyes rolled upwards to look at the mysterious object, which turned out to be a very small planet, floating a couple 100 meters above and behind him. Could that be? Waiting until he'd caught his breath, Tien stood up slowly, walking a few more steps to discover, just over a small bump in the road, the end of Snake Way. It tapered off into a serpentine tail, and seeing this, he looked back up at the tiny planet. I guess this must be it, King Kai's place. He lifted off into the air, soaring in a graceful arc up to the planet. And then as soon as he was inside his gravitational field, plummeting in an extremely ungraceful flop to the ground. Ow! He rubbed his head, trying to stand and finding it extremely difficult for some reason. What is this place? Feels like I weigh a ton. He gritted his teeth, straining to stand on his feet. I guess training here must really toughen you up. He saw a hunched over figure that appeared to be watering some flowers. That must be King Kai's caretaker or something, he thought to himself. Still, I expected more. This just looks like, well, a house and garden. Oh well, Kami recommended it, and I'm not going to doubt him now. He struggled over to the figure, sweating just with the exertion of walking a few steps on this strange planet. Excuse me, do you know where King Kai is? He asked politely. Of course. The small blue-skinned man, with long black antennae extending from his forehead and wearing perfectly round sunglasses, straightened up, laying his watering can down. I'm right here. Can I help you with something? I mean, yes, please. Tien bowed. I come to seek your help, King Kai. A great evil is threatening my home planet, and I need to become powerful enough to defeat it. I see. King Kai rubbed his chin. Well, I suppose I could help. But first, you'll have to pass a test, an arduous challenge, which will prove your worthiness to train here. I'm ready, Tien smiled. I've already died today. Nothing can compete with that. King Kai nodded. All right. Your test is to make me laugh. Make you laugh? Tien gulped. I came here for martial arts training, not comedy. Well, if you're going to be spending a lot of time here, you've got to at least have a sense of humor, or we won't get along at all. The deity grinned, awaiting Tien's response. Can I ask you a question first? Tien shrugged. Why do I feel so much heavier here? Yeah, let me see. King Kai's antenna wavered a little. Ah, you come from the planet Earth. Well, the gravity here is 10 times that of your home planet. Now, are you going to make me laugh or not? Tien began to grow angry. The fate of my planet is at stake, damn it! I'm here to do training, not to monkey around! As it happened, King Kai's pet monkey Bubbles happened to hop out from behind the house just as he said that. The perfect accidental comic timing caused King Kai to collapse in hysterics, laughing out loud. Tien just stared, dumbfounded. The present. And so, apparently I passed, Tien grinned. Luckily, after that King Kai got serious. I had to chase the monkey around, though, to get used to the high gravity before I actually began the training. But once I was familiar with 10 times gravity, I pretty much got started on the Kaioken technique right away, and the spirit bomb followed. I wasn't there for nearly as long as Tien, Krillin said, although I did find his test much easier. I just dazzled him with my famous celebrity impersonations. He was probably just laughing at how bad you were, Roshi chipped in. You do the worst Humphrey Bogart I've ever seen. Oh, quiet, old man. I'm trying to tell the story. Krillin pushed Roshi out of the way. You try going to the afterlife and back and training with the mystical deity, and then maybe we'll start listening to you. So anyway, I figured if Tien could do it, there's no reason I couldn't. And that kind of thinking really helped me learning the Kaioken. I didn't get around to the Spirit Bomb, though. He shrugged. It would have been nice, I guess. Anyway, I'm not sure how well I did compared to you, Tien. Well, let's do a little sparring soon, Tien suggested. I'd like to see how well you can handle the Kaioken. Alright, Raditz nodded. Sounds like a unique experience. He wondered if King Kai's training would be useful to someone on his level. Well, if we can get back to the point of this little meeting, Bulma folded her arms, frowning, which is taking place far too early in the morning, if you ask me. Let's get to the point. 2 deadly androids are going to appear in 3 years' time, and we need to be ready. Some of you, I think it's safe to assume, will be training in preparation to fight them when the time comes. But, she glanced back and forth. I'd like to know, Raditz, Nail, Piccolo, what are your plans? I'm living on this planet as of now, Raditz answered. I'll defend it against any threat. Don't ask more, I don't feel very talkative. Nail was the next to speak. I was going to stay here and train anyway. Wherever an evil force appears, I'm honor-bound to fight against it. Piccolo grunted half-heartedly. If these androids take over the planet or destroy it, I'll never get my chance. I'll turn them into scrap metal. Sounds good, Bulma smiled. For one reason or another, it seemed all of Earth's warriors were going to assemble to fight the menace. She already knew Zarbon was staying, but the others didn't. Zarbon, what about you? Yamcha asked. Are you going to stay and fight? Some people had expected him to have an instant dislike for Zarbon, since Bulma had taken a clear liking to the alien over the last few weeks. But actually, the ex-bandit didn't feel any hostility. He and Bulma had broken up over a year ago, or was it 2 or 3? Time passed so quickly. He was over it. Mostly. Well, I don't plan on fighting. However, Zarbon inclined his head. At first I was going to leave, but then I thought, where to? The former empire of the Planet Trade Organization is going to be in chaos. It's not going to be particularly nice. Besides, this is such a beautiful world. He gave a knowing glance at Bulma, who grinned a little. Evidently, the feeling was mutual. Yamcha rolled his eyes, sighing. She was the one, you gigantic idiot, and you let her go. Why is it that all the nice ones hook up with aliens around here? Absolutely not! Came the not unexpected, resounding answer from Chi-Chi when Gohan begged to be allowed to fight the androids. Due to his persistence, however, she did agree to let him help Goku train. She also wanted someone to keep Goku company and look after him, as he was set on training himself harder than ever. It certainly wasn't going to be her. It's not that Chi-Chi wasn't a fighter. She easily outclassed 99% of the planet's population, and could probably take on Master Roshi. But even that wasn't enough to keep up with their Saiyan family when they got into the rhythm of battle. And as for the other human fighters, well, they've all had magic, otherworldly training and power unlocking rituals, and she wouldn't stand for that sort of thing in her house. And so, without any declaration or ceremony, the training began. Raditz would use instant transmission to jump over to Mount Paozu every day and train with his brother and nephew, then return to Kame House in the evenings. Raditz and Goku's sparring matches were all intense, close-fought affairs. Raditz never transformed, of course, it would make the whole thing pointless, but in his normal state, he was at first significantly below Goku. However, something about becoming a Super Saiyan seemed to have raised his ceiling, even in his base form. Whereas Goku's power had peaked and stopped growing as quickly after a while, Raditz just kept on improving, and it didn't take too long for them to become about equal. Gohan did his best, and also improved a lot. When the two adults got serious, he would always be left behind, and wander off to train on his own. Raditz, for his part, wished that Goku could somehow become a Super Saiyan as well. He desperately wanted another chance to exercise his real power, and if they could train while transformed, they'd be able to make huge advances. However, knowing the kind of emotional trauma it had taken to trigger his own transformation, he resigned himself to the fact that it was unlikely to happen anytime soon. Of course, Saiyans were not by any means the only ones training. Piccolo and Nail regularly met in the wilderness for vicious, fast-paced practice bouts. Both often left bearing significant injuries, their enmity for each other no secret. Often though, Piccolo would prefer his own company and train on his own, spending great lengths of time in deep meditation. When this happened, Nail would train with Yamcha and Zarbon at Capsule Port, Zarbon had been perfectly content to lead a peaceful existence and not train or fight at all. But this is a physical impossibility to win an argument with Bulma Brief, and he soon surrendered to the immovable object. Krillin mostly trained on his own or under Master Roshi's guidance, and when Raditz came home in the evenings, he'd sometimes have a match with the human warrior. It wasn't much of an effort for even an already tired Raditz, but it gave Krillin a good workout. Deep in space, a smile spread across his face. The Avengers ship would be entering the Earth's solar system soon. They'd have no problem with most of them, but the Super Saiyan could pose a problem. Well, he decided he'd just have to lure the monkey away. His unwitting plan would then dispose of the rest of them, while he took care of the real threat. It was just a matter of timing. Well, being the feared ruler of most of the known universe helped too, thought Frieza. Meanwhile, on Earth. Raditz! King Kai's voice woke Raditz from a daze. He'd been staring out at the sea from the doorway of Kami House. Blonde Launch, seeing him standing there, shuffled over and leaned on him. Raditz, it's early. Come back in just a second, Launch. King Kai just contacted me. He propped her up, waiting for the deity to respond.
Oh, so you are listening. That's new.
King Kai grumbled. Look, what do you want? Raditz sighed. Launch has a point. It's early. Going back to bed seems like a really nice idea right now. King Kai snorted.
Well, how about you two continue your epic romance of the ages sometime when the new planet Namek isn't under attack?
Huh? Raditz started paying attention. Can't they look after themselves? Who's attacking them?
I'm not sure. There's some kind of thing attached to the planet. Look, can't you just instant transmission yourself over there and help them out?
Why should I? It's not my problem. In case you haven't noticed, Earth is going to have its own troubles soon enough. Raditz had just about made up his mind to accept Launch's invitation, but King Kai wouldn't be defeated so easily.
I'm going to keep annoying you until you agree. I haven't got a great deal to do around here, so I can just stand here bugging you all day.
This wasn't entirely true. He managed to find himself an endless supply of little activities and pastimes from only his tiny planet.
Damn it! Fine. But if I'm not back by this evening, having transported some would-be conqueror's life into a smoking ruin, I'm going to kick your ass from here to Yard Red and back.
He raised his two fingers to his head. New Namek is quite far from here. We'll get King Kai's help locating it. He can make himself useful. Launch, only half paying attention, wasn't expecting his sudden departure and promptly collapsed, falling asleep there on the floor. A few minutes later, after a brief stop at King Kai's planet, Raditz appeared on New Namek, standing on a small island dotted with trees, much like the rest of the planet. The first thing he noticed was that all the Namekian power levels he could feel were grouped together at the other side of the planet. Maybe they've been taken prisoner, but I can't sense any attacker. They must be hiding their energy. I'll have to be careful. He leapt into the air, setting off through the skies of New Namek. The dragon had chosen this planet well. It was almost identical to the original Namek, which, in Raditz's mind, meant it was incredibly boring and nondescript. Earth. Goku jumped out of bed with a start. God, not again! He pulled his clothes on, racing out into the hallway, where he was met by bewildered Chi-Chi. Goku? Why are you up so early? She asked, yawning. Sorry, Chi-Chi. There's another big evil power heading for Earth. Gotta run! Don't tell Gohan, okay? Well, just try and follow me. He ran out through the door, taking off. Chi-Chi smiled a little. Well, at least he has some sense. He'd be in serious trouble if he tried to get my Gohan involved in another of those horrid battles. Why do people always have to threaten Earth on these nice sunny days? Goku alighted on a mountaintop, near the mysterious approaching power. He noticed Tien already there, waving to the three-eyed warrior, his longtime rival. So, where is everybody? We're all here. Tien indicated another mountain behind him, upon which stood several fighters. Piccolo was standing on his own peak, set aside from the rest. And Zarbon wasn't there at all. He'd sensed the incoming power, grunted, rolled over, and gone back to sleep. Alright, here it comes. It doesn't feel too big, but be ready. It feels an awful lot like Frieza and his family. Goku watched intently as an insect-like ship became visible, descending through the atmosphere towards a spot a few miles away. Without warning, Piccolo let fly a charged energy blast that tore the ship in two, then blew the halves to pieces. Well, there goes the element of surprise, Krillin thought, shaking his head in irritation at Piccolo's arrogance. A small humanoid figure became visible through the clearing smoke, the power they had sensed. Piccolo's attack evidently hadn't harmed this one, although there appeared to be no survivors from the ship's crew. The figure approached, coming to a halt about 100 yards away from Goku and Tien, who stood in front of the others. They did a double take as they saw the alien more clearly. You! Goku stared at the invader in disbelief. You look like Frieza! Indeed, the creature grinned, the early morning mist almost enveloping him. He was somewhat shorter than the other frost demons they had encountered, with a deep chestnut red-brown coloring, where Frieza had been purple. I am Frieza, and you primates killed my father Frieza. I'm here to take my revenge. By the time I'm done here, this planet will be nothing but a scorched, burned-out husk. If that attack was all the power you've got, then this'll be even easier than I imagined. A bit overdramatic, isn't he? Krillin muttered to Yamcha. New Namek. Raditz spied a glint of metal as he passed over a large landmass, and landed hurriedly, glancing about. Who's there? He called out. I know I saw something. A sudden impact from behind knocked him towards the ground, but he landed on his hands, propelling himself up and backwards. I still didn't sense anything. It's like I don't have any ki at all. He spun to face his unknown attacker, focusing all his senses in preparation for the next attack. Show yourself! He demanded. Very well. Raditz turned in the direction of the voice, and couldn't believe what he saw. A gleaming, silver, metallic being, its sleek tail twisting around its legs, stood on a small hill, barely a few feet away. You might not recognize me. After all, I never assumed my true form in your presence. And anyway, I've changed somewhat in appearance of late. He smiled. You may know me as Frieza, ruler of the universe. Oh, if you don't know who Frieza is, he's Frieza's son, introduced somewhat comedically in Neko Majin Z, and not entirely canon. But I thought the character had potential, and Cooler wasn't really canon either. Plus it gave Frieza an excuse to actually plan and time his attack. Well, some people foresaw something along these lines, and I got people asking if there'd be a meta Frieza. Of course, I didn't think anybody would have guessed Frieza would appear. Anyway, on with the Q&A, as I haven't got much else to say here. Oh wait, yes I do. I Am So Original has done an awesome fan art picture of Break Through the Limit's future Trunks. In fact, he's done several. One normal, one of his 100% state, one of both with a cool background, that sort of thing. Check it out on his DeviantArt page. I'm still in that half-disbelieving, wow, I have fan art stage over here. Was there anything between this variant of Trunks and Break? It may be nothing, but what they said and did when the androids turned up gave me a bit of a more than friends vibe that could be explored in any future flashback, or just upon her return to top the future to discover Gohan's fate. Maybe. I'll probably do a chapter on the future timeline, but I haven't got enough of it worked out in enough detail to do that yet. Zarbon and Bulma? I really don't know how to respond to that. On the other hand, she did think he was her savior on Namek. That was my main reasoning. Whether or not their relationship lasts, we have yet to see, of course. At least you didn't name her Pad, Launchpad, or something. Heh. It's not that I thought Gohan or Goku would be the father, but it just seemed that way. I completely forgot about Raditz, honestly. I'm glad that Zarbon is Trunks' father. Ah, okay, that clears it up. Thanks. What about Vegeta? Yes, what about him indeed? Find out soon. Well, present timeline Vegeta. I'll deal with future Vegeta later. Wow. Zarbon x Bulma. Yamcha just cannot get a break. Chapter was pretty good, just missing the explanation about the Red Ribbon Army and all. Do they know that the Red Ribbon Army at all? Count me in as one of the people that likes the changes you made regarding Vegeta and Trunks. It'll be interesting to see how his life goes without him finding peace on Earth. Or maybe he will eventually. Zarbon x Bulma is also a refreshing change. Break is an awesome name that fits her in more ways than one. Breakfast, her violent nature in Super Saiyan, and how she's basically a broken soul who has had to live through hell. Nice. Hey, that last one I didn't think of. Nice one. Why is Cold so much stronger than his sons? Frieza and Cooler both had power levels of 120 million and 160 million, respectively, at full power. Yet, Cold was able to defeat Raditz easily in his third form. And in Frieza's case, the difference between his third form and his 100% final form was huge. Is this the same for Cold, or is the difference between his third and final form a lot smaller than Frieza's? I personally believe that it's entirely possible Cold was many, many times stronger in his fourth form than in his third. However, Raditz killed him before he could transform. Really, Cold's full power could have been vastly higher than any character for quite some time. Maybe even on Android/Cell level, judging by the power jump Frieza's fourth form gave him. Anyway, that's all for today. See you on Sunday. Thank you all very much for tuning in for this fanfiction narration of Break Through the Limit. This is, as of now, the longest video I've done on this channel. Which probably going to be clocking in at about an hour and a half. Anyway, like I said, thanks for tuning in. Also, as of recently, I've finally finished Break Through the Limit. I'm starting on Even Further Beyond. And I'm so glad I got the chance to finish all of it. This fanfiction is really good. All the changes that have been made, everything's just fantastic. I'm not really sure how else to explain it. I guess further down the line, I'll get to enjoy it as much as I did. Anyway, that'll be all for this video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends. It really helps out the channel. As always, I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe. Bye!